My best friend turned into a Bridezilla and tried to ruin my life because I wouldn't let her control me. You know that moment in life when you realize someone you thought you knew inside and out is actually capable of being the villain in your story?
Yeah, that was Sarah. We've been best friends since the 6th grade. I knew all her secrets. She knew all of mine.
We were inseparable, matching Halloween costumes, shared notebooks full of our dream futures, endless sleepovers. I was there when her parents got divorced, and she was there when my dad passed away. We were ride or die. Until she got engaged. It was like she hit a switch. One minute she was crying in my arms because Brandon, her boyfriend of 3 years, finally proposed. The next minute she was scheduling mandatory bridesmaid Zoom meetings at 6 a.m. on Sundays, demanding everyone lose at least 10 pounds before the wedding, and sending spreadsheets about color palettes like we were being graded. And I mean, that literally she had a point. System. If you confirmed attendance to a wedding planning event within 5 minutes of her group text, you got 3 points. If you didn't respond within the hour, -2 points. If you made a helpful suggestion that aligned with her vision, 5 points. If you wore your nails in a color that clashed with her seasonal theme, -4. It was like a sorority hazing ritual disguised as a wedding, but I put up with it. I kept reminding myself it was temporary, that I'd want her to do the same for me someday. Then came the dress fitting. Sarah had picked out this thing. A floor-length beige monstrosity with puff sleeves, a square neckline, and a cinched waist that made everyone look like Victorian orphans. She claimed it was timeless elegance, but it was giving funeral chic. I tried to politely suggest a different style. I even offered to pay extra for my own alterations to match her aesthetic without wearing the exact same silhouette. I was respectful. She stared me dead in the face and said, "If you don't like the dress, don't be in the wedding." I laughed, thinking she was joking. She wasn't. Now, I should have taken that as my out. I should have backed away slowly, wished her well, and gone on with my life. But like the idiot I was, I apologized and I wore the dress. That wasn't even the worst of it. Sarah made us each submit a sample menu for our bachelorette weekend snacks to make sure the foods we brought wouldn't clash. She wanted Instagram-ready, coordinated snacks. At one point, she vetoed Hannah's popcorn mix because the green candy melts weren't sage enough. But the real tipping point? That came when she tried to control my +1. I'd been dating a guy named James for about 6 months by then. Sweet and funny in a quiet way. We weren't planning our wedding or anything, but he was a good guy, and I was excited for him to come with me. Sarah, however, had other plans. 2 weeks before the RSVP deadline, I got a message from her. It wasn't a conversation, it was a statement. "Hey, just a heads up. I'm assigning seating for the reception and decided you won't be bringing James. We're trying to keep it just close friends and family, and we don't want any awkward new relationships at the head tables." I stared at my screen for a full 5 minutes. I typed, deleted, and retyped. Finally, I sent, "Sarah, I already RSVP'd with James. I thought it was fine." "You never said anything until now." Her reply came fast. "I didn't think you'd actually bring him. I thought you'd have the sense to know it's not the time." "It's not about you, it's about me, and I want to look around that room and feel completely comfortable." "I get that, but I'm not comfortable disinviting him now. He already booked his flight." No response. 2 hours later, she removed me from the bridesmaid group chat. I thought it was a glitch. I texted her, "Hey, I think you accidentally took me out of the chat." No reply. The next morning, I woke up to a wall of text. It started with, "Since you've made it clear that you can't support me the way I need to be supported, I think it's best if you take a step back from the wedding entirely." And ended with, "I need to surround myself with people who love me unconditionally. I hope you can respect that." I blinked. Reread it. Checked if it was a prank. It wasn't. I'd just been dropped as maid of honor. No warning, just deleted. I felt like I'd been dumped. I wasn't even angry at first. I was hurt. This was my best friend. The girl who once cried over our first fight in middle school because nothing should come between us. And now I was an inconvenience. But fine, if she wanted space, she could have it. I sent a short, polite message. I'm disappointed, but I wish you a beautiful wedding and a happy life with Brandon.
I hope we can reconnect one day. Her response? I hope so too.
Please mail the bridesmaid dress to my mom's house. And that is when I realized this wasn't just about the wedding. This was about control. And Sarah had just made the biggest mistake of her life. She didn't just lose a bridesmaid. She created someone who wasn't afraid to tell the truth anymore. After sending back the dress and being cut out of the wedding party, I expected everything to go quiet. Boy, was I wrong. Over the next few days, I started getting texts from the other bridesmaids. Some were short, just, "What happened?" Or, "Are you okay?" Others were full-on confessionals. Turns out I wasn't the only one who had been teetering on the edge. Jenny, who had been one of Sarah's closest college friends, messaged me late at night with, "She told me to get lip filler for the wedding photos." I blinked at my screen. She what? She said my lips were too flat, and it would throw off the symmetry. Another bridesmaid, Rachel, who just had a baby 3 months earlier, sent me a screenshot of Sarah telling her it would be really considerate if she wore Spanx to smooth out the new mom lines. And it kept going. Sarah had told one girl to tone down her laugh, another to fix her teeth, even just temporarily with veneers, because she didn't want crooked smiles in her big photo moment. This wasn't just a Bridezilla, this was a dictator in tool. I didn't even have to say anything. There was a group chat made without Sarah and it exploded. Everyone was walking on eggshells. Most of them were only still in the wedding out of fear of Sarah's reaction. And now that she'd publicly ousted me for something as small as bringing my boyfriend, it sent a message. "Step out of line and you're gone." I didn't say much in the chat, but I noticed something interesting. Sarah hadn't told them I was kicked out. She told them I had voluntarily stepped down to focus on my relationship. Excuse me? I was replaced by her cousin Tasha, a girl none of us liked. She had once tried to start a pyramid scheme involving bath bombs and spent half a vacation asking if anyone wanted to buy glitter scrubs. Apparently, Sarah wanted to bring more family into the celebration, which just so happened to conveniently coincide with me no longer being supportive. It was annoying, sure. But I was still in a weird state of mourning, and I wasn't looking to stir up more drama. Then I found out she'd been talking behind my back. I got lunch with Hannah a week later, one of the original bridesmaids. She looked nervous as she picked at her salad. "She told me you were jealous." I froze mid-bite. "What?" "She said you were always trying to one-up her and that you made the wedding about yourself. That you were probably going to try to wear white to get attention." I burst out laughing, which I hadn't done in days. "You've seen the dress she picked, right?" I said. "The one that looks like a sack of sadness?" "She said you were mad because you're not engaged yet." That one stung. Mostly because it was so far off and deeply cruel. James and I were happy. No pressure, just peace. Hannah looked up at me. I didn't believe her. But I think some of the others might. I nodded slowly. I knew Sarah had always had a bit of a controlling streak. But this wasn't just control. This was character assassination. And I had no idea why. I went home that night and opened my messages with Sarah. I scrolled back through years of memories, funny selfies, long confessions, little emojis we used to send each other for inside jokes. It was like watching a ghost version of someone I used to know. How do we go from that to this? The next day, I got a call from her mom. "Hi, sweetheart," she started, voice way too sweet. "I just wanted to check in. Sarah said you were going through a lot and maybe feeling overwhelmed. She's really hurt by everything that's happened and hopes you'll come to your senses before the wedding." I blinked. Come to my senses? Well, you've always had a dramatic streak, and I think all the attention on her might have triggered something. But she's willing to forgive you if you apologize. I nearly dropped the phone. She kicked me out of the wedding because I wouldn't dump my boyfriend for her seating chart. Then she lied about it, and now you're calling me dramatic? Her mom gave this tiny, exasperated sigh. "You know, Sarah, she just wants things to be perfect." "Yeah," I said. "Perfect for her, not anyone else." I hung up. That's when it hit me. She wasn't just trying to control her wedding. She was trying to control her image. Anyone who didn't fit that image was cut out. She wanted a Pinterest perfect fairy tale, even if it meant steamrolling every real relationship she had in the process. It wasn't just me.
It was everyone. So I decided I wasn't going to fight her. I wasn't going to beg to be let back in.
I wasn't even going to confront her. I was going to wait. People like Sarah always unravel themselves.
And when they do, they make sure the whole world's watching.
You can only micromanage people for so long before they snap. It started small. A bridesmaid didn't show up to the third wedding shower. Another one suddenly had a work thing during the group hair and makeup trial. Jenny, the one Sarah pressured about lip filler, bailed on brunch and said she was having migraines. I didn't say a word, I just watched. Then I heard from Brandon, the fiancé.
Well, technically, James heard from him first.
Apparently, they followed each other on Instagram after a double date months back before the fallout.
James showed me the message. It was short and weirdly formal.
Hey, just checking. Is everything okay between us? I heard something weird from
Sarah, but it didn't sound like her. Just wanted to make sure.
I messaged him myself.
I kept it polite, neutral. Hey, Brandon.
Everything's fine with us.
Why do you ask?
He replied almost immediately. Sarah said you were lashing out at her. That you called her a monster and told people to boycott the wedding. She said you were trying to turn everyone against her.
I literally laughed out loud. Boycott the wedding?
I'd barely spoken to anyone. I was still too busy mourning the friendship to play social sabotage. I told him kindly that none of that was true.
That I was dropped from the wedding because I didn't want to disinvite
James. That she'd removed me from the group chat without warning, and that I hadn't spoken to her since she asked me to mail back the dress. He went quiet after that, which told me everything.
It wasn't just me seeing the cracks, it was him too.
And it only got worse from there. 2 weeks before the wedding, Sarah had the final bridesmaid dress fitting.
I wasn't there, obviously, but I got the full debrief from
Rachel. She had a breakdown in the boutique over the sash color. Apparently the tailor accidentally brought the wrong ribbon. It was ivory instead of champagne blush. Sarah threw a full-on tantrum. Screaming, stomping, crying into her bejeweled Starbucks tumbler. She told the tailor she was ruining her life. The tailor, an older woman with the patience of a saint, told her calmly that it's just a ribbon. Sarah screamed, "It's not just a ribbon. It's everything. Nobody gets it." Then she stormed out and told the bridesmaids they were all against her too. Rachel said they stood there in stunned silence for 5 entire minutes. That's when Jenny finally spoke up. "She's lost it," she whispered. "I'm done." And one by one the texts started rolling in. "I think I'm dropping out. I don't even recognize her anymore. I feel like we're just props in her wedding photos." It was like the spell broke. The glass slipper shattered. Everyone was finally seeing what I had seen for months. But Sarah doubled down. She posted a teary Instagram story about being abandoned by people she trusted, and how true friends show up even when it's inconvenient. She didn't tag anyone, but it was obvious who it was about. She made a new bridesmaid group again. Only this time, it was mostly her cousins and coworkers. People who didn't know her well enough to push back. The original bridal party had all but evaporated.
I wasn't even happy about it. I was just exhausted.
The whole thing felt like watching a train derail in slow motion. Then came the rehearsal. Dinner. I wasn't invited, of course. But James was in town that weekend, and we ended up grabbing dinner at a spot near the venue by pure coincidence. Or so I thought. Halfway through our meal, guess who walked in? Brandon. Alone. He looked shocked to see us. We said hi, awkward smiles all around, and then I asked, "Shouldn't you be at the rehearsal?" He sighed. Loudly. "Yeah, I left early." He sat down. At our table, uninvited but clearly needing a lifeline. James and I exchanged a look, then nodded. We heard him out. "I don't know if I can do this," he said. My heart skipped. I love her.
I really do, but she's been different the
past few months. Everything's about the wedding, not the marriage. Not us, just the image. He rubbed his face with both hands. She screamed at my sister because her dress didn't match the exact shade of forest green she wanted. She made my mom cry when she suggested a family prayer during the ceremony. And tonight, she yelled at the waitstaff because the water glasses had a logo on them. I sat in silence. She accused me of not being committed because I didn't want to do a choreographed dance. That last one actually made James choke on his drink. Brandon looked at us like a man realizing he walked into the wrong movie halfway through. I don't know what happened to her. And then, like he was afraid to even say it out loud, I don't know if I'm marrying the right person anymore. There it was. The crack became a crater. I didn't tell him what to do, that wasn't my place. I just listened, nodded, and told him gently, whatever you decide, make sure you do it for the version of you that wakes up the morning after the wedding, not the version wearing the suit. He nodded silently and then left. I didn't hear anything for 2 days. And then came the phone call from Sarah. She hadn't called me since the breakup of our friendship. I stared at her name on the screen, unsure what to do. Then I answered. Her voice was shaking. Did you talk to Brandon? Yes, I said cautiously. We ran into him. You ruined everything. There it was. No hello, no apology, just an accusation. She sobbed, fully melting down. She said he called off the wedding, that he blamed her for scaring everyone off, that she couldn't believe I would do this to her. I sat there, letting her rant. And when she finally stopped, I said the only thing I could say. I didn't ruin anything, Sarah. You did that all on your own. Click. She hung up. And for the first time in months I felt free. 2 days after Sarah's meltdown call, she posted a generic white background Instagram story. Due to unforeseen circumstances, we have decided to postpone our celebration of love. Thank you for understanding. No new date, no Brandon, just silence. The original bridesmaid group chat lit up. Rachel. She blocked Brandon on everything. Venmo too. Jenny. He told my friend Sarah tried to make him sign an NDA. Vendors. Were quietly talking too. Sarah had been a nightmare, and they were fed up. Then a venue assistant posted a vague TikTok. Story time about the worst bride I've ever worked with. And how her wedding got canceled. She didn't name names. But everyone knew. The pastel snacks, the ribbon tantrum, every detail matched. People started tagging Sarah and the video blew up. Sarah responded the only way she knew how. With a dramatic 12-slide Instagram story titled Setting the Record Straight. It included a list of her intentions, claims that Brandon abandoned her, a quote from the notebook, and a screenshot of a Pinterest board, labeled Solo Healing Era, but sympathy started fading fast. Old acquaintances began sharing their stories, bullying incidents, influencer plagiarism, and Photoshop drama. Then a vendor posted actual footage from the rehearsal. Sarah screaming at a server, "Do you understand how hard I've worked for this aesthetic?" It went viral. People stitched it with commentary like, "This is why weddings aren't personality replacements." And then, Brandon spoke up. He didn't go public, just posted a Notes app screenshot on a private story. That got leaked. I didn't want to say anything publicly, but silence is only making things worse. I love Sarah, but I didn't love what the wedding turned her into. I hope she finds peace. I hope I do too. That was it. Public opinion flipped completely. People messaged me too. You were right. She did you dirty. Glad you walked away. I didn't reply. I wasn't interested in clout or revenge. I was finally free. James and I took a trip. No themes, no stress, no Instagram-ready moments, just us. Waffles, beach walks, and goofy selfies. I posted one photo. No filter or drama. Just soft launch into a soft life. A few hours later, I checked my account. Sarah had blocked me. And honestly, that felt like the healthiest thing she'd ever done. After the dust settled, I didn't hear from Sarah for a long time. And honestly, I was good with that. I thought that chapter of my life had closed for good. The one where I let people walk all over me just because I love them. The one where I thought loyalty meant tolerating disrespect. The one where best friend meant bending backward until I snapped. But about 3 months after the canceled wedding, I got an email notification from Sarah. No subject line. No apology in the preview. Just, hey, I've been thinking about everything. I'd like to talk if you're open to it. I sat with it for a while. I didn't reply right away. Not out of bitterness, I just needed to know I could respond without falling back into old patterns. I needed to be sure I wouldn't end up explaining myself to the same person who once screamed at a florist over HARAAS. After a few days, I replied. Short and neutral. Sure. Let me know when. She called me that evening. I answered cautiously. Her voice was quiet and tired. Like the drama had finally worn her down. She didn't launch into excuses or accusations. She just said, I don't know who I became. I didn't say anything. I let her keep going. Everything got so out of control. I wanted it to be perfect. I wanted everyone to look at me and think, she has it all together. She paused. Then, barely audible, but I didn't have anything together. She told me Brandon moved out a week after the canceled wedding. She tried to convince him to work things out, but he was done. But losing her image hurt even more because that's what she'd really been protecting. Her social media following tanked. Brands stopped reaching out. People unsubscribed from her newsletter. One of her old college friends even wrote a blog post about toxic positivity in wedding culture. And yeah, it didn't name her. But again, it didn't have to. She said she'd been in therapy. Her therapist told her she'd spent years tying her worth to external approval. That she controlled people because she didn't know how to ask for support in a healthy way. I said I was glad she was getting help and I meant it. But then came the pivot. I'd really like to be friends. Again. Maybe even rebuild what we had. And there it was. The olive branch, dipped in glitter and gaslighting. I took a long breath. Sarah, I appreciate you owning what happened. And I do hope you grow from it. But I don't think we can go back. Not after everything. She got quiet. People forgive worse things. Maybe. But this wasn't just a mistake, it was a pattern. You didn't just hurt me once, you bulldozed every boundary I had and acted like I was the problem for noticing. She didn't respond. You kicked me out of your wedding because I wouldn't disinvite my boyfriend. Then you lied to our friends about it. You let people think I was jealous. You made your meltdown everyone else's responsibility, and when it all blew up, you tried to blame me. I'm not saying this to hurt you. I'm saying it because this is why we can't go back. She sniffed. Then quietly said, I didn't know how badly I'd hurt you. I know. But I did. And I lived with it. We ended the call on civil terms. No fireworks, no yelling. Just closure. At least I thought so. But about a week later, I saw something on her Instagram. She started posting again. Subtly, carefully curated, more muted than before. Lots of self-care quotes, tea in sunlit windows, and little captions about healing from mistakes. And then she posted a throwback photo of us from 2 years ago matching sweaters. Holding coffee, her arm linked through mine. The caption. Sad. Some people leave and it hurts. But you learn to be grateful for the lesson.
Oh, really? I didn't respond, but I got messages. Was that about you?
She posted that after your phone call? I thought she said she wanted to make things right. I just laughed. Because there it was again, that carefully curated narrative. The aesthetic heartbreak, the vague booking. But this time, I didn't feel angry. I didn't even feel hurt. I felt immune. A few weeks later, she sent a final text. I know we're probably not friends anymore. But I hope you'll come to my birthday. It'll just be a few close girls like old times. I stared at the screen for a second and then I typed, thank you for the invite, but I'll have to pass. I'm not who I was back then. She replied with a thumbs up and that was it. The final nail in the friendship coffin. But unlike before, it didn't feel tragic. It felt like something that had run its course. I wasn't angry. I didn't need an apology parade. I didn't need her to say my name in an Instagram caption. I just needed the peace of knowing that I'd outgrown the version of me that tolerated being treated like a supporting character in someone else's fantasy. Life got quiet after Sarah's final message. No more texts, no calls, no cryptic posts with buried jabs. She finally let go, and so did I. I don't know what I expected, honestly. Maybe some dramatic encore or a desperate last attempt to win people back. But the truth is, once someone loses their grip on a fantasy, there's nothing left to perform for. I stopped checking her page. Stopped bringing her up in conversations. I moved forward one small, peaceful step at a time. And life got really, really good. I moved in with James, not in a fairy tale kind of way, not in a this will save us way, but because it felt right. Because we laughed a lot, supported each other, and never tried to control the other's happiness. Our relationship had nothing to prove and no audience to impress. We hosted a game night with some of my old friends, yes. Even Jenny and Rachel came. We drank sparkling cider, played Cards Against Humanity, and stayed up too late laughing about everything and nothing. There were no matching outfits or social media recap. Just joy. I got promoted at work a few months later. Took a solo weekend trip to clear my head, and even started going to therapy myself. Not because I was broken, but because I wanted to understand why I tolerated so much from people like Sarah for so long. Turns out, that part wasn't about her. It was about me. About who I thought I had to be to feel valuable to people. About how I'd confused self-sacrifice for love. About how I'd silenced myself to maintain peace that never really existed. Therapy helped me connect dots. I didn't even know were there. Like how I always said yes when I meant maybe. How I mistook Sarah's need for control as strength. How I'd spent years playing the supportive friend and never once asked who was supporting me. And with every session, I peeled back another layer. I wasn't bitter, I wasn't angry. I was just done carrying the weight of friendships that required me to shrink to fit them. Then one day, I got coffee with Rachel and Jenny again. We didn't talk about Sarah much. We were all on the other side of it by then. But Rachel said something that stuck with me. You know, you were the first one to say no to her. The first one to break the cycle. That hit harder than I expected. Because yeah, I was the first one who said, this isn't okay. The first one who didn't fold when she threw a tantrum. The first one who didn't apologize for having a boundary. And while it cost me a friendship, it gave everyone else permission to stop pretending too. Sometimes, healing starts with one person choosing truth over harmony. Months passed. Sarah faded into the background. I heard through the grapevine that she was rebranding as a wellness coach and that she was doing yoga teacher training and posting deep quotes about inner peace. She was traveling solo and journaling daily. Good for her, honestly. I hope she was finding her own kind of healing, even if it looked like a Pinterest board. Then, out of nowhere, a wedding invite arrived in the mail. Not hers. Brandon's. It was simple, elegant. His name and the name of a woman I didn't recognize. They were getting married with a small ceremony in the spring. At first, I thought it was a mistake. But then I saw the handwritten note inside. You always treated me like a human. Thank you for that. I'd be honored if you came. James smiled. When I showed him. You want to go? I thought about it. About the chaos, the pain, the unraveling, and then I smiled back. Yeah, I do. We went. And it was nothing like the circus Sarah had tried to plan. There were no themes, no matching outfits, no dramatic grand entrances. Just two people, quiet, grounded, and so clearly in love. Brandon looked relaxed and joyful. His bride was kind and soft-spoken. The kind of woman who laughed with her whole face. The ceremony lasted 10 minutes. The food was buffet style. The music was acoustic covers of 90s songs. It was imperfectly perfect. After the toasts, Brandon came over and hugged me. I never said thank you, he said, for being the only honest person in the room. On the drive home, I felt a quiet sort of peace settle into my chest. Not the kind that shouts, I won. Just the kind that whispers, you survived and you chose better. So no, this story doesn't end with Sarah begging for forgiveness or falling off the grid. It doesn't end with a big revenge twist or a viral confession. It ends with me living a life that no longer revolves around keeping someone else's chaos from spilling onto my shoes. It ends with real friends. With love that doesn't control. With a sense of self that doesn't come from being needed, but from being myself. And that's the happily ever after I didn't even know I was chasing.